Hi, I'm Les Twentyman. I'm here for the Tobin Brothers Say It Now campaign. I'm here today to say thank you and also give credit to the wonderful people who have helped me on this journey. Back in 1984, I was in the pub having a drink with a mate of mine, Ron Coleman, who owned a newspaper called the Western Times, and we got chatting, and he said because of my background as being a school teacher and a footy coach in the Western suburbs, why don't I do a weekly column? So we did that, and we played on my name, Les Twentyman, and called it the 20th man, as in the old days in footy, you had a 19th and 20th man. So anyhow, we become very, very popular. Ron said, look, we're going to have a function and get these guys back on board. So we decided to have a barbecue with drinks and a band at an old pub in Footscray Road, which was called Healy's Point. So we went there, and the club coaches and the presidents came, and at the end of the night we had $500 left over. And Ron said, I will give it to the Children's Hospital. And I said, well, Ron, as a youth worker, the worst time of the year is Christmas because kids, homeless and that, they've got no family to go to, no such thing as holidays, and absolutely no such thing as getting a Christmas present. Why don't we put the $500 towards homeless kids in the western suburbs? And he thought, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. So we had this function, and I think there was about 15 homeless people turned up, had a great time. And the following year, we had 60 kids, and we had Brownlow medalist Brad Hardy play Santa Claus, which was a bit of a bonus because we didn't really have to pad up the suit because Brad's a very large sort of a guy.
Les Twentyman came to me in 1986 when I was CEO of the Footscray Football Club, as it then was, and he had an idea about using the high-profile AFL players as role models and sending them into primary schools to act as teacher aides. At the time, there was a high level of absenteeism and a lot of vandalism and criminal damage around the western suburbs, and this was sheeted back to the fact that a lot of kids weren't turning up at school. Anyway, Les came up with this idea that if we send in high-profile footballers as role models, it would stimulate children to come to school to be educated. And this was a huge success, and when we went into the schools, we'd find that kids who wouldn't normally come to school were arriving and were enthusiastic and were willing to learn.
And we started to see the kids were coming for help, but it wasn't for counselling and things of that nature. They didn't have school books to go to school. So with the help of one of my youth workers, Richard Tregear, we set up a back to school program, and we put probably about 21,000 kids through school over that period, about 1,000 through university. In fact, one young boy recently, who's now a young adult, came up to me at a Masonic Lodge function in Williamstown and said, oh Les, I just want to thank you. When I was homeless in Altona some 15 odd years ago, my youth worker brought me to your program where you gave me all these great brand new books so I could go back into school, which he did, and he ended up winning a scholarship to go to Oxford University in England, where he graduated as a mathematician and now has his own business in artificial intelligence. And then there was another boy who was in a gang. He wanted to go back to school, so he came and saw Richard and gave him the books. Now that young person owns 4 stores, one in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and he's setting one up in London where he sells the gowns and the wigs to the barristers and the judges in the legal system.
Hi, my name is Sally Tregear and I'm the coordinator of the Back to School program. I've been working here for about 3 years, and my role is to assist with the redistribution of used high school materials to students who are otherwise unable to afford them. It's an absolute privilege to be able to work here and to be surrounded by such amazing people doing such great things for youth in the western suburbs.
Then we started to have a few gang issues. One gang had attacked one, and the other ones would respond, tit for tat, like a game of table tennis. So what we decided to do is that we found that both gangs like playing basketball. So we immediately set up a basketball club. We've got something like 600 kids who play basketball, and they've been doing that for 20 odd years, and we've got a few kids over in America at the moment on basketball scholarships. At one stage we had 29 kids in America on these basketball scholarships. But then Jim wanted to go a bit further, what these kids post basketball. So we decided to set up a leadership program, which is now called Embrace. And there's about 60 kids who spend 2 years. They meet every Monday, and then they go on camps and all that, and it's about developing their skills and things in leadership. And currently I think we've got 3 young people from that Embrace working full-time for the foundation as youth workers. David Young, who was our chairman, is a very well-known surgeon. And back in 2006, my wife and I were walking 2 dogs, and it was a cold, misty, foggy morning. And she decided to go for a run. And as she took off, the dogs pulled on me and I slipped forward and I ripped the muscle off me, the quadricep off the knee, and ended up in my groin. So here I am laying in the fog, with the dogs licking me and that. So I ended up going to the hospital, and they gave me a couple of injections, and David operated on me. So he stitches me all up, and I said to David, look, I've got this foundation and we really need a chairman. What about you doing it? He's going, oh. Anyhow, reluctantly, he took on the job, and from there we just, because every time he had a patient that had some sort of clout, he'd sort of tap him on the shoulder and say, look, I'm chairman of this Les Twentyman Foundation, and we need some help, and can you do this?
Hi, my name's Natalie. I started training Les in the start of 2019, and 3 years on we've improved his shoulder strength, his mobility, and we started off in the early days on very light weights, and now Les would be very proud to tell you that he bicep curls 15 kilos seated. So I'm very proud of him. He's done very well. He's been very motivated. He's always turned up to his training, and I love training him.
I've been going to Natalie for 3 years. I think I started up on 3 kilograms of bicep curls and gone up to 15. But there's an old saying, who motivates the motivators? In the case of Natalie, not only has she helped me with my physical fitness, but it's also, she's a good sounding board for issues that develop out of nowhere from day to day in this particular case. So she's not only just a trainer, but her and her family also become very close friends. Her father's my doctor, and used to also be the club doctor of the Western Bulldogs. And that's where I've been lucky, is that I've got probably the best young youth worker in Australia in Goom, and I've got 2 of the best senior youth workers in Australia, and that's Richard and Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Markowski. I'm the Manager of Youth Services for the Les Twentyman Foundation. I've known Les, and more importantly worked with him for over 35 years in local government, plus we're in a previous job at Open Family and now at the Les Twentyman Foundation. I've been here 10 years, and we've developed some really good, strong bonds and supports. Thankfully to a lot of our supporters, we've been able to kick goals for young people.
And we're hoping at one stage to expand to become national, and after the documentary, maybe international, because, I went over to America. I did a radio interview here on John Fame's show with a guy from America who had a book out called Tattoos of the Heart. His name was Father Greg Boyle. And anyhow, so I was the co-compere that morning with, as I said, with John Fame. And at the end of the segment, Greg said to me, if you're ever over in America, come and have a look what we do. And I said, well, I'm speaking in Las Vegas in April. He said, oh, that's only an hour away in the plane. So I went over and did my spiel at the conference, Kids an Investment in the Future. And then I flew to LA, and I spent every day for 10 days at this Homeboys, which are ex-gang kids. Some have been in jail for murder. And I was talking to this young boy called Joseph. He was about 22 years of age. I said, Joseph, how did you end up in here? He said, Les, my brother and I started doing stick-ups when we were 12. We'd run in with a gun or a machete or a knife and say, give us your money, and then we get caught and we get locked up. Anyhow, he said, one day my brother and I were in the shopping centre and there was a gang above us and they flipped down a bloody skateboard and I picked it up and I hurled it back and we bolted with the gang yelling, we'll get you, we'll get you. The next day he and his brother out throwing the footy and this car pulls up and they realise it's the gang. So Joe was on a bike and he's going and then he discards the bike because he wasn't going as fast as his brother was running. They come to this wall and they clamber over the wall and then he looks around and no brother. So he doesn't know what to do. So he goes back to the wall and he creeps up, looks over, and there's his brother laying on the ground with a gang guy with the gun in his mouth who goes bang and runs to the car and they take off. So Joseph goes over and he's cradling his brother who's dead and he hears the sirens and then he had the cops turn up and he gets 6 months jail, which they get for gang association. So he can't even go to his own brother's funeral. So he's in jail and his Father Greg Boyle comes in. He said, well, Joseph, he said, you've been locked up half your life. I know you've got a girlfriend, I know you want to, have a family and all that. He said, I'll make you a deal. He said, if you come and work at the Homeboy Industries in the bakery, you'll be able to earn money and you'll be able to have an independent life. And he said, oh, thank you, Father, thank you. So anyhow, he goes to work in the bakery and the second day he turns around and who's working beside him? The kid who killed his brother. He said, Les, every day I think about getting revenge, but I remember the promise I made to Father Greg, and that's why I haven't done it. Thanks, mate, for all your help and keeping me out of jail.
It's a pleasure, Les, any time.
Thank you. It's been great. I've known you all your life, basically. Your father and I go back 40 years, along with Jimmy, and it's great having you. And you're not the best goddaughter I've ever had, but I haven't had too many, so anyhow. I just want to say thanks very much, Natalie.
Absolute pleasure.
All that paid off.
I love training you.
Jim, I just want to shake your hand and say it now. It's been great over those 4 decades we've been together, even though you're a Collingwood supporter.
Not a problem. Pleasure, Les. Embrace, hug.
How you really feeling? What's there in your heart?